Is it working? Good evening, second graders. Yesterday we read the first chapter of The Mighty Miss Malone. So we are going to read chapter 2 today. Go ahead and get your fuzzy blanket, get a nice comfortable pillow, maybe a favorite stuffed animal. And I'm going to read chapter 2 with Stella and Rosie still playing in the background. If you did watch yesterday's videos, you probably saw them in the background of the video playing and fighting. When I went back to review it, I noticed that and I just thought that was really funny. So I tried to kind of angle it today so it's not quite as distracting. They're being really loud right now and I get distracted easily, so I apologize in advance. I decided that I am not going to go over the answers to the chapter quizzes, the comprehension questions, the next day, because I noticed not a lot of people have viewed chapter 1 yet on YouTube. So what's the point of going over the answers if you haven't listened to it? So what I think I'm going to do, I have uploaded chapter 1 quiz onto OneDrive. The link is in the description of the first video. I also sent it out on GroupMe and I believe also via email. I am going to continue every day that I read a new chapter of this book to upload that chapter's comprehension questions. I want you to try to work on them at home. And then what I'm thinking is on Fridays, I will either upload the answers onto OneDrive in that same file, or I will choose to use Fridays to go over the comprehension questions with you. If you have any suggestions either way or have a preference, make sure you let me know. I've been getting less and less feedback. I'm hoping that you guys are watching these, that you're enjoying them, that they're useful and helpful to you. But if they're not, please let me know so that I'm not wasting both of our time. Without further ado, The Mighty Miss Malone, Chapter 2, The Pie Thief. Jimmy said, "So what's for dessert, Ma?" We had just finished supper, and Chief and children showed something Father had made up where we told each other what our day had been like. Mother's eyes locked on Jimmy's. She saw he was serious. "Well, Master Malone, this evening the chef has prepared for your dessert a lovely stack of dishes, which Deza will wash and you will dry." Jimmy said, "How about tonight we just let those dishes drip themselves dry?" Mother said, "How about tonight, just like every other night, we let them be dry by a little drip?" Jimmy was still smiling. Most times, if any of us forgot and called him anything that had the word little in it, he'd get pouty and he would quit talking. Now it makes sense. He probably saw that I was puzzled with that look. The sentence said exactly what I read, so now it makes sense. She was antagonizing him. "Can I be excused for a second?" Mother nodded and Jimmy went into the living room. Father said, "Dessert? Where did that come from?" From the porch, Jimmy yelled, "Hey!" He walked back through the dining room and into the kitchen holding something behind his back. A second later, he came back smiling like a Cheshire cat, still with his hands behind his back. He said, "Ma, I'm going to give you one more chance. What would have to happen for me to take a month or 2 off from drying the dishes?" Mother said, "What's this all about, Jimmy? You can get a couple months off doing the dishes if lightning strikes any one of us." Jimmy put his hand to his ear. Wait. Was that the roll of thunder I just heard? Ta-da! He showed us a pie tin holding a gorgeous half of an apple pie. It was thicker and bigger than any pie I'd ever seen. The crust was the same light brown, goldy color as the wood floor in the kitchen. There were strips of dough on it in a crisscross way, and some of the juices had bubbled up and oozed out. Father said, "Where did you get that pie?" Jimmy said, "You don't know, and you don't want to know." I had to shake my head. Jimmy loves talking about rocket ships in outer space, and I figured that's because he comes from A different planet than the rest of the Malones. Just 1 second, my camera is struggling. There we go. And most other people who live on Earth, too. He was smiling and making his eyebrows go up and down. He was hopping from on one foot to the other foot. All he needed was a green hat and some pointy shoes and big silver buckles to look like a little brown leprechaun holding onto a pot of gold. I shook my head. Jimmy had broken our deal. Our deal was that if I was going to do anything that wasn't about school or books or studying, stuff he calls regular living, I'd ask him for his advice. I said I'd do it if he promised when he made plans that were about anything more than breathing, he'd ask for my advice. I would have told him that popping up in front of us with this pie for dessert was a terrible idea. Mother is a pretty good baker, and she couldn't ever make a pie like this one. And we all knew there was no way the Malones could afford such a pie. It was something you'd think the Carsdales would eat. Mother said, "Where did you get that?" Jimmy looked at Mother and Father. I had to stop him before he lied. "Jimmy, tell the truth. Just tell the truth." I kinda took it off a lady's windowsill, but I paid her for it. Father pushed his chair back and stood up. "Okay, let's go." "Go? Where?" "You are returning this pie." "Who ate the rest of it with you?" Jimmy looked to the side, a sure sign that what he was going to say wasn't all the way true. "No one, Pa. It was like that when I found it." Do you believe him? Father said, "Found? James Malone, you stole that pie." When Mother is upset, her face gives a warning. The look, the skin between her eyebrows fold, and you can tell how much trouble you're in by counting the lines that pop up there. If it looks like a 1, you're okay. If it looks like a 1, 1, 1, 1, watch out. She was at a 1, 1, 1. Hold on, Roscoe. Jimmy, this is extremely important. Did you steal that pie from a white neighborhood? No, ma'am. I got it over by the park. She dropped down to a 1. Thank God. Father said, "Let's go." Jimmy got nervous, and that was strange. Living on Earth had made Jimmy very tough, and something like returning a pie shouldn't bother him this much. Then I saw what it was. He'd be humiliated to death if any of his criminal friends saw him being dragged down the street by his father like a 5-year-old kid. Father's tone changed. "Move it now." Jimmy's eyes went from father to the front door. He was going to make a break for it. I stood up, took the pie, and said, "I'll take him back. We'll return this woman's pie. Jimmy, promise them right now you'll come and you won't give any lip and will do everything I say." Jimmy's eyes went from me to the door. I stamped my foot. "You apologize right now. Tell them you'll work for the woman for as long as she wants until the pie's paid off. Do it!" Jimmy waited a heartbeat. "I'm sorry. I'll do everything Deza says." Father was not buying it. "Too late. Let's go." I caught Mother's eye and she said, "Hold on, Roscoe. Come into the kitchen for a minute." Father told Jimmy, "Don't you move." They left us standing there. I slapped Jimmy's arm. "We had a deal. You're supposed to come to me before you do anything like this." Jimmy looked down. "Aw, sis, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm the only one not pulling his weight around here. I wasn't looking to steal nothing. All I wanted to do was help." "What are you talking about? You help all the time. You don't get in as much trouble as you used to. You always bring something for supper. You sing for us whenever we ask. That helps." "But I wanted to do something special. I only wanted you all to be proud of me." "By stealing?" "It wasn't stealing. I left the lady some money." "Jimmy, You only make things worse by lying all the... Father and Mother came back. Father had the kitchen clock in his hand. How far off does this woman live? Jimmy said, just past the park. Father set the clock on the table. Deza, you've got 45 minutes. We'll be back in time. I got a clean dish rag to cover the pie, and we left. When we walked, Jimmy tried to trick me into getting in a conversation, but I kept strong and scowled. It was a good thing it was me walking with Jimmy instead of Father. Every friend Jimmy ever had was sitting on their porches or walking down Gary's streets. Jimmy started that funny walk he and his friends do. He put his thumb of his right hand in the front of his belt loop and swung his left arm far out in front and far out behind. He dragged one of his legs and hopped more than walked. Mother thinks that this is a scream. She says it's just nonsense to walk that way. Some young men use it to draw attention to themselves. Rooster strutting, she calls it. Jim, one rooster stutter yelled. What's shaking? Ain't nothing going on but the rent, baby. Where you headed, Pops? Just taking baby sis over to the park to lay this pie on some po' folks. We poor baby. Jimmy laughed. Ain't that the truth? Catch y'all later. Was he being honest with his friends? I could tell that we were close to the woman's house. Jimmy started walking like a normal person, and the nervous look came back to his face. He stopped. Sis, I gotta tell you the truth about something. You don't have to say a word. I know you didn't pay anything for this pie. I did pay, but it was a whole pie when I first got it. I hid it under the porch chair before I brought it in, and when I got outside, a rotten stray dog was chomping on it like an old bone. He ran off the porch with it in his mouth, but dropped it on the sidewalk and... Jimmy, you were going to let us eat a pie that a dog had been dropped out of his mouth on the ground? Deza, stop interrupting, please. I cut the chewed-on parts and wiped off the dog slob off the rest. I said, God kissed it, the devil missed it, and it wasn't on the ground long enough to pick up any germs. I will continue reading chapter 2 in the next video. We are out of time for YouTube's length of videos, so I will be right back with you with chapter 2.